Excellent. Okay. So this morning we're going to talk about credit card debt. And with us, we have our guest speaker, Lauren Holwell, the Executive Director from Credit Counseling Services of Newfoundland and Labrador. Welcome, Lauren, and thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Going to do just a little bit of housekeeping and then I'm going to hand it off to you, Lauren. If everybody could mute their mics just to block any outside noise. And there will be captioning. There should be captioning at the bottom of the screen, Sherry.
Yeah, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a thing that says show captions. You can press on that if you want to show captions.
Is that an individual thing?
That's an individual. Yes.
Perfect. And you can throughout, if you have any questions or comments, then throw something into the chat. We'll go to that at the end of the presentation to cover off questions and then take any other questions that you have. We are recording the session and it will be posted to YouTube. Land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the lands on which we work, live, and meet are situated on the traditional territories of the Indigenous groups of Newfoundland and Labrador. And we acknowledge with respect the diverse histories and cultures of the Beothuk, Mi'kmaq, Innu, and Inuit of this province. We honor the diverse Indigenous peoples who have cared for this land for past generations and for the 7 generations to come. We are committed to listening, learning, and working in collaboration with Indigenous communities as we move towards reconciliation, respect, and mutual understanding. Let us carry this acknowledgement forward in our work and relationships as we strive to create a future that respects and embraces the wisdom of older adults and the diversity of all communities. And just a little bit about Lauren. I mentioned she's the Executive Director at Credit Counseling Services of Newfoundland and Labrador. She leads community-based initiatives to support financial wellness as well as debt management. She has a strong background in personal finance and public education. She's passionate about making financial literacy accessible, especially for underserved groups, including seniors, single parents, and youth. Today, she brings her experience and insights to help us to a better understanding of practical strategies for budgeting, saving, and managing debts. And at that, I'm going to stop sharing, Lauren. I'm going to ask you to share. Oh, no, I'm sharing. That's right. I'm going to stop sharing that and I'm going to share another screen. Everybody see that okay? Lauren, is it good?
Yeah, perfect.
Excellent.
Okay. All right. So thank you, Meg, for introducing me. And as she said, I am Lauren Holwell, and I'm here from Credit Counseling Newfoundland. And for anyone who doesn't know about our agency, we're a not-for-profit, and we help people with budgeting and dealing with their debt. And all of our services are free. So that is great. We've been around for 42 years, which is a long time. So Meg, if you can go to the next slide, please.
Okay, hang on, I'm trying. Maybe I just clicked.
All right. And you already introduced me, Meg, so we can go to the next slide. All right, so why does it matter that I'm here today talking about budgeting, money management, and debt? As you know, seniors are living on a fixed income. So in Newfoundland, the median income for a senior is $27,800, and that compares to the national median income of $33,350. So it is significantly lower than the rest of the country. And the cost of living is very high right now. We know that a third of our seniors can't afford the basic necessities: food, transportation, housing, because the income is just not enough to afford those things. And credit cards are too easy to access in this day and age. So seniors are turning towards credit cards to get from one month to the other. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk a little bit about budgeting, and then we're going to talk about credit card debt and how to deal with it and what your options are. So what is a budget? A budget is basically a plan for your money, and most people like to do a monthly budget because most of our bills are due monthly, and it's just easier that way to look at a monthly budget. So it's a plan for your money, and it helps you make intentional choices. So choices that you have decided beforehand that you want to spend money on, rather than impulse purchasing or spending more than you plan to, because that's where the debt comes in. So budgeting helps us avoid debt. And it's not about restriction, it's about freedom and control. The goal is that we want you to feel like you are in control of your money, you know where your money is going, and you don't feel like overwhelmed by it. Next slide, please. So the first thing, before you sit down and actually look at the numbers and do your budget, it's a good exercise to go through and figure out what some of your goals are. We like to look at SMART goals. So those are goals that are realistic, timely, measurable, attainable. So I'm not going to say, I want to be a millionaire by the end of 2025, because it's just not realistic. I mean, I wish, but it's not realistic. So it needs to be a goal that's realistic and has a number to it and a time. So, for example, if you wanted to save $150 in 3 months to buy a new pair of running shoes, then you would save $50 per month. That's a SMART goal because it's achievable and there's a number to it, $50 per month. Another example, let's say you want to pay off your $3,000 credit card in 18 months. So you would take the $3,000, you would divide it by the time that you have, 18 months, and it would be $156 per month to cover interest, and that includes if you don't make any more purchases, so if you stop using it. So if you want to pay off your $3,000 credit card in 18 months, you'd need to pay $156 per month for those 18 months. And make sure you write your goals down because you're going to want to go back and refer to them. You can have short-term goals like the shoes, long-term goals like a vacation or a trip. It's a good idea to have those goals because budgeting is not always easy. It can be really hard to say no to things that you really want to do because they're not in your budget. So by going back to your goals and reminding yourself why you're doing this, it can be really helpful. So income versus expenses. Income is all income that you have coming into your household. So whether that's wages if you're still working, CPP, GIS, OAS, a pension from work, our money coming in from an RSP or a RIF, any income that you have coming in is considered for your monthly budget. If it comes in monthly, then you just write down the amount that comes in. Now, if it only comes in every 3 months, then you need to take that amount and divide it by the 3 months and only include what the monthly amount would be. So we're looking at monthly income. And the same goes for expenses. So expenses can be fixed or variable. So fixed expenses are a little bit easier. Like when I sit down with a client for the first time, they can usually tell me what their fixed expenses are because it's rent, it's the phone bill, it's insurance, it's things that are generally the same amount of money and due on the same day every month. So those are your fixed expenses. They generally don't change. And then your variable expenses are things that you know you're going to need money for, but you don't know exactly how much they might be. So something like groceries, fun money, that's where budgeting comes in because you need to budget for an amount that you can afford that fits within your budget. And you should become familiar with your income dates and your due dates. You don't need to know absolutely everything, but it's a good idea to just get a calendar, print out a 1-month calendar, and write down on that calendar what day your income comes in, what day your bills are due, and how much, just to give yourself a visual of what a month generally looks like for you. It can be a good visual exercise to see what your monthly budget kind of looks like. Yeah, that's good. So steps to building a budget. Number 1, you're going to want to list your income, which we kind of just discussed. Number 2, you're going to need to track your spending for at least 1 month. For most of us, 1 month isn't enough. It's better to do a few months because there's some expenses that don't come up every month. So track your spending. That means, we'll get into that more, so I won't get into it now, but categorize your expenses. So that's putting things together. So if you go to the grocery store 3 times a month, total up what you spent those 3 times, and that's your total grocery spending for the month. Then you're going to want to set limits. That's where the budgeting comes in. So if you total up your monthly budget and you find that you're spending too much money on something, let's say Tim Hortons. Let's say you're spending too much money on Tim Hortons. That's something that you're going to want to set a limit on based on your budget. And then you need to adjust your budget monthly or as needed because things change. Bills go up, bills go down, events happen. Maybe you're invited to a party or a wedding. You need to save up money for a gift or an outfit. So adjust monthly or as needed as things come up. All right, so just so that we have like something to work from today, I just want to do an example of income. So let's say a CPP and OAS is $1,400 per month and $300 coming in from an RSP and $300 coming in from a pension. So for example, today we're going to look at a total monthly net income of $2,000. Net income is the amount of money that actually goes into your bank account. Gross income is before any tax or anything comes out. All right, so here we are, the first step, tracking your expenses for the month. So you're going to want to write down exactly how much you spent, the date that you spent the money on, whether that was from your bank account, cash, credit card, write down what it was. And it's easiest just to get a little notebook and keep that with you. You can keep it in your car, in your purse, or sit down every night before you go to bed and write down everything that you spent money on. So in this example, on the 1st of April, this person spent $700 towards rent, $100 towards car insurance, $50 into a Christmas sinking fund. We'll get into what that is later. And $50 into a clothing sinking fund, $25 into a car repair sinking fund, and $20 towards medication. And then on the 2nd of April, there was $200 for groceries and personal care, $80 for gas, and $40 at Dollarama, just picking up some stuff for the grandkids. And then on the 3rd, there was $10 to Tim's. On the 5th, they paid $60 on their cell phone bill. On the 6th, they played bridge for $20. On the 8th, they went out for supper for their friend's birthday. That was $50. And on the 12th, it was time to get gas for the car again. So that was another $80. On the 14th, it was time to get groceries again, another $200 at the grocery store. And then on the 20th, the power bill and the cable bill were due, $120 for Newfoundland Power and $90 for Rogers Cable. And on the 26th, $60 for church donation. So this is just an example. So if we look at April 26th and it wasn't on a Sunday, then I apologize. It was just an example I made up. And on the 27th, $25 for grandkids' birthday party. So that's as simple as it can be. Just write everything down.
Next slide.
Yes, please. So in that example, I had written down sinking funds. So I'm just going to explain to you what that is. So sinking funds are things that we know are coming up, but they're not necessarily monthly. So let's say Christmas. Let's say you want to have $300 by Christmas and it's June month. So $300, there's 7 more months before Christmas. That gives you $44 per month. So you need to set aside $44 a month in a sinking fund, which can either be a jar, an envelope, or a separate savings account, so that when Christmas comes, it doesn't feel like a big hit all at once. And in the previous example, I had written down car sinking fund, because car repairs are not every month. They may be once a year, but they're big bills. So if we don't budget for them, then that's where debt happens. That's where credit cards come in because we don't have the cash for it. So it's better to try to save for those things. And small amounts at a time are a lot easier. You know, I'd rather set aside $44 a month than have to look for $300 at Christmas. So that's what a sinking fund is. It's money set aside for future use. Next slide. So some things that you can create a sinking fund for are Christmas, birthdays, car repairs, vacations. The key is not to mix it with your regular spending. So making sure that you separate those funds and actually set them aside. Next slide. Okay, so setting limits. So we've gone through and we've written down all of our expenses and we, can total them up for the month. We need to set limits on things that our wants are higher than what we can afford. So our needs, there's not a whole lot we can do with that because those are fixed expenses. You can't call your landlord and ask for $100 off in most cases. You can't change your Newfoundland power bill. So your wants are really where the budgeting comes in. So the reason we set limits is so that you don't spend too much on one thing and so that there's enough left over for the important things like rent and Newfoundland power and food and medication. Setting limits helps you make smart choices and avoids running out of money. So how do you adjust your budget? Look at what you spent last month. Did you go over in any category? It can be a really good exercise. And this works in different aspects of life. Even, people that struggle with eating too much. If you sit down and write all the food that you eat, you can actually see how much you ate. When you're eating, you don't necessarily realize it. But when you write it down, you're like, okay, I can see now. Same thing goes with spending. So writing it down can be a really good exercise to see where your money is going. So did you spend over in any category or did you spend less than expected? So if you budgeted $500 for groceries and you only spent $400 consistently over the last few months, maybe you need to change that limit. Check for any new expenses. So is there anything coming up next month? Birthday parties, travel plans, your tire change, any of your bills going up or down? I know every November I get a bill, a letter from my home insurance letting me know that it's going up again, even though I didn't use it, right? So bills go up and we need to keep track of it and adjust our budget. Update your limit. So if groceries are consistently costing you more than planned, like if you budget for $200 and you're just consistently going over, then it's really important that you readjust that because clearly there's not enough budgeted there. You need more there. If you don't use all your fund money, then maybe put more of that into savings and set new goals if needed. So if you want to save for a special tool, a trip, or pay off some debt faster, make room for that in your plan. So why to adjust your monthly budget? Because life changes month to month. No 2 months are the same. Events, bills, and plans change. Helps you avoid surprises. So planning ahead helps you avoid running out of money or using credit. Even if you have an emergency fund, it's better to try to set aside money than have to tap into that. And stay on track with goals so you can shift money towards saving or paying off something faster. Learn and improve so you get better at budgeting the more that you do it and you see what works and what doesn't work for you. So this is just the May budget example. So it's more of just a visual to see. So this month you can see the categories are kind of not lined up great there. So I apologize for that. If you look across categories, those are all the categories: rent, car insurance, those are all the expenses. And then the due dates are listed there throughout May. And the budgeted amount is in the next column. So that's how much was budgeted. And then in the next category is the actual that was spent. And then the next category shows you the difference. So for example, medication, budgeted amount was 20, but the actual spent was 40. So that was $20 over. And then down in groceries and personal care, 200 was budgeted, only 180 was spent. So that's $20 to the good. So that's how you kind of balance your budget. But it's a good exercise to see your budgeted amount and what you actually spent and making sure that you balance at the end of the month. And by keeping track, you can adjust and make changes as you go. So clients often ask, what is the best way to budget? Like, is it just a pen and paper, spreadsheet, an app? My advice is what works for you. What are you actually going to do? Some people like to have just a notebook and write it all down, pen and paper, and some people like to use a spreadsheet or an app. So whatever you're actually going to use and what makes sense to you and works with your life, that's what you should use. So some tips for sticking to your budget. Automate your savings and limit easy access. So automating savings means that you let your bank know that you want X amount of dollars on a certain day of the month to go right into your savings account, rather than leaving the responsibility to you to go into your bank and transfer that money over. So automating your savings just makes it easier and makes sure that the savings actually go into the savings account. Because a lot of times when it's left to us, we won't actually make the transfer over because we could use that money for something else. It's easy to spend it. And then limiting access. I have a lot of clients who say, well, I save $200 a month. I'm like, okay, well, that's great. But by the end of the month, they're transferring $25 over at a time. They're using that $200. So they didn't actually save anything because it's so easy to just go online and transfer that money back over. So try to limit your access to it so that your savings stay there and they're used for the things that you intended them for. Avoid impulse purchases by setting boundaries. So that could be as simple as not making a purchase for 24 hours, going home and sleeping on it before you purchase anything. And that really works because let's say you're in Winners and you see something really nice for your house. It's $25 and you're like, well, I'll pick that up. If you were to say, no, I'm going to wait, go home and sleep on it, chances are tomorrow comes and you're not going to want to go back to Winners and purchase it. It was an impulse purchase in the moment that you wanted. So setting up boundaries. Some people have their phone attached to their credit card so they can just tap their phone everywhere and make purchases. If you struggle with impulse shopping, that's probably not the best way of doing it. So just take it off. So setting up boundaries is really important. Use cash for certain categories. So if you have committed to only spending $200 this week on groceries, instead of bringing your debit card to the grocery store, get your grocery list, go by the ATM, take out the $200 in cash, and when you're in the grocery store, tally it up as you go. Make sure that you're not going to go over the $200 because you only have $200 cash. And that can really work because if we have debit or credit, it's much easier if the cashier says it's $250 and you only want to spend $200. It's so easy just to hand over your debit card and type in your PIN because you're not seeing the physical money leave your hands. So use cash as much as possible. Shop with a list. Look for seniors discounts. Everywhere you go, just ask them, is there any seniors discounts? Is there a seniors day? Use bulk buying and share with others. So I know quite a few clients that go to Costco and they'll share the big, huge packages of things because it's cheaper. Review your budget monthly. Reward yourself when you hit milestones. That'll keep you motivated to keep budgeting. Develop strategies and boundaries with children and money. So if you go through the exercise of looking through your spending for the month and you find that you're spending too much money on your children or you're helping your children too much, and you can't afford it, then you need to develop some strategies and boundaries with that. And the same goes with developing boundaries with friends and family and money as well. Because we have to take care of ourselves first before we can help others. So why are seniors facing debt? Because they're on a fixed income and the cost of living has gone up. Because they're supporting family or spouse that don't have income or don't have sufficient income, because they have health issues that have impacted their finances. Maybe there was a lack of financial planning in their working years for their retirement years. Divorce or death of a partner. Those are some reasons why seniors face debt. So credit cards. Credit cards are some of the highest interest rates that you can borrow. And they're very easy to delay payment. So it's very easy to fall into debt because when you make a purchase with a credit card, it's not due right that minute. It's due in 21 days. So it's really easy to delay the payment and then fall into debt. The minimum payment on your credit card of $10 or whatever it is not enough to reduce the balance and pay it off. Interest charges, over limit fees, and balance protection insurance, those things are incurring on your credit card if you carry a balance. Over limit fees is if you had a $500 credit card and you spent $501, the bank charges you a fee for going over your credit limit. And the risk of using credit cards is that you can fall into debt. You're going to be paying interest and fees, and you might be hurting your credit score. So how does interest actually work on a credit card? So when you make a purchase on your credit card, you do have a 21-day grace period where they will not charge interest. After that 21 days, then interest will accrue and apply to your credit card balance. And there's an increased rate for missed payments. So if your credit card interest rate is 19.99 and you miss a monthly payment, they can increase your credit card interest rate. So from 19.99, it might go up to 22 or 24% interest. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what compound interest is on the next slide. So compound interest happens when you carry a balance on your credit card. So if you carry a balance, that means you didn't pay it off in full. Your credit card bill came in, maybe it was $300, and you only pay the minimum payment of $10. You're carrying a balance into the next month. So compound interest is when you charge interest on not just the amount that you borrowed, which is the principal, but also any interest that already applied. So essentially, you're paying interest on interest. So for example, let's say you owe $1,000 on a credit card with a 20% annual interest rate. So if we figure that out, 20% divided by 365 days, that's 0.0548% interest per day. So daily interest of $1,000 on $1,000 is 55 cents a day. So that's a lot of money. So if you don't pay it off, tomorrow you owe $1,000.55. And interest is now calculated on that amount, not just $1,000, but the $1,000.55. So essentially, compound interest is when you carry a balance and you're paying interest on not just the principal $1,000, but the principal and the interest. And that's how it can really add up. All right, so this is just an example of a credit card statement and what it looks like. And I just want to point out, so at the top left there, it says new balance is $782 and minimum payment is $10. On this credit card bill, they have to show you how long that would take to pay off. And when you look at it, it actually might take you years to pay it off if you only pay $10, because that's not covering the balance and the interest and everything. So that's just an example of a credit card statement. What you should be paying is the $782. The minimum payment of $10 is not enough. And your credit card bill might get worse if you just pay $10 a month, because interest is applying every month. Maybe you have balance protection insurance. $10 isn't covering it. But the problem is that the credit card company is happy as long as you just pay the $10. So they're not going to call you. The balance will get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're not going to call you to tell you that they need anything from you, as long as you're making the minimum payment. And that's where the trouble comes in. So to avoid credit card traps, use only what you can pay in full each month. Avoid carrying a balance at all costs. We always say if you're making a purchase, make sure you can pay it off within 3 to 6 months. Avoid using it for essential items. So credit cards are not meant to be used for food, medication, and things like that. If you find that you are having to use them because you can't afford those things, then the issue is, bigger. So keep the limit low, because the higher the limit, the more access you have to get credit and get debt. If you can't pay your balance, always aim to pay at least the minimum amount that you owe. That will help at least your credit score won't go down. If you don't pay at least the minimum amount, you risk your interest rate could increase. It might negatively affect your credit score. You can lose the benefit of any promotional rate offer you have. So if they've given you a low interest rate and you use the credit card and you don't pay it, then you'll probably lose that good interest rate. And your financial institution can cancel your credit card if you don't make your payments. So they'll close and cancel it, and you still owe the bill. So your card provider canceling your credit card balance insurance as well if you don't make your payments. So if you do have a credit card and you're making your minimum payment, everything might feel fine because nobody's calling you, and you're making your payments. So your bill, you feel like your bill is paid. But some signs that you may be in trouble are if you can't pay that full balance. So never mind the minimum payment. If you can't today pay off your full credit card balance, then you might be in trouble. If you're using money from one credit to pay another, so if you're using your line of credit to pay your credit card, or you're taking a cash advance from one credit card to pay another, that's a sign that you may be in trouble. A lot of people say robbing Peter to pay Paul. If you're avoiding your bills, so your bills come in and you can't even open them because you're stressed out and you're afraid to see, or you're feeling anxious about money in general, if you're relying on credit for basics like food, if the debt collectors are calling you, that might be a sign that you're in trouble and you should get some help. Making payments, but balance is staying the same or increasing. So that's where we talked about the minimum payments. If you're just making the minimum payments, the balance is either staying the same or getting worse. It's a sign that you might need some help. If you're constantly hitting your credit limit, that's a sign that you might need some help. And if you're taking out a cash advance, that's not good. We shouldn't be taking cash advances out of our credit card because it's too expensive. So don't panic if these signs resonate with you because there is help available. And that's why I'm here to talk about what kind of help that you can get with credit cards. So the first thing you're going to want to do on your own is if you feel like, okay, I'm in trouble, I'm in too deep with these credit cards, I need to figure something out, I need to turn this around. Stop using your credit card and don't apply for any more. So just leave your credit card home somewhere safe. A lot of people say, well, I need it for an emergency. If it's a $3,000 limit and you owe $3,000 on it, there's no access to help you in an emergency anyways. So stop using your credit card and don't apply for any more. Make a list of your debts from smallest to largest and include interest rates, due dates, balance owing, and fees. Then you can try the snowball method. So the snowball method of debt repayment is when you make minimum payments on all of your debt, but extra money on the smallest balance debt. Once that's paid, you move on to the next one. So the reason that works is it's motivating to see something paid off. So if you have 4 or 5 credit cards, you write them down from smallest balance to largest balance. Make sure you make minimum payments on everything, but any extra money goes on the smallest balance card to try to pay that off and get rid of it. If that doesn't work, or if it's not an option, or you can't afford more than minimum payments on everything, then you might want to try reaching out to us, Credit Counseling Services. So we can offer you credit counseling. We can look at a debt consolidation plan for you. We can talk to you about how to speak to your bank. And we can also do an intervention with your creditors, which means we speak on your behalf to your creditors to make arrangements that work for you. All right, so some debt repayment examples. If let's say you have a $25,000 credit card debt and it has 22% interest. So that's pretty standard. I think the average debt in Newfoundland unsecured debt is more than 25,000 in unsecured debt, but we'll go with 25,000 at 22% interest. If you were to pay that on your own and you wanted to pay it in 5 years, that would be $690 a month, which is a lot of money. The total cost over that 5 years would be $41,400, which is significantly more than the $25,000 that you owed. All of that is interest. So that's if you were to do it on your own without any help. Let's say you went to the bank and asked them to cut up your credit card and give you a consolidation loan at a lower rate, like 12%, that would still be $556 a month for 5 years to pay off 25,000. So a total cost of 33,360. It's a lot better than paying it on your own, but it still might not be affordable to some people to pay $556 a month. That's a big bill. And for example, if you were to enter into a debt consolidation plan with credit counseling, we would do 0% interest. So your payment would be $416 per month. Still a lot of money, but a lot better than $690 a month. So it's good to explore all options and consider all the implications. And if you can't afford any of those things, then we would definitely have to talk about referring to a licensed insolvency trustee to talk about bankruptcy or consumer proposal. All right, so this is just an example of the snowball debt repayment that we talked about earlier, where you rate your credit cards from lowest balance to highest. So we've got Capital One with 500, MBNA with 1,500, Canadian Tire with 2,400, and TD Visa with 3,000. So you just write them down smallest to largest and what the minimum payments are. Then you make minimum payments on everything so that your credit's okay. And you would put any extra money onto that Capital One because it's the smallest and you want to get rid of it. So the benefits of the snowball, the quick wins. So paying something off really motivates people. It's simple to follow. So it's not getting complicated with what's my interest rate and things like that. It's just paying the smallest balance off first. And it's great for people who need emotional encouragement. All right. All right, so let's assume in that example that we just had there, you've got $300 available towards debt repayment per month. So you've done your budget and you've got $300 you can put towards debt. So you're going to want to pay minimums on everything other than Capital One. You've got a little bit of extra. So you've got $20 extra to go towards Capital One. So the minimum payment and the $20 extra, that's $50 a month. That'll be paid off in 11 months. And then with that $50, you can put it towards the next lowest credit card, which is MBNA. So MBNA, you were already paying $60 minimum, and now you've got $50 to go towards MBNA. So you'll be paying $110 a month. And then as you pay that one off, you'll go to the next one. So it is a good method. It is a really good method. If the snowball method doesn't work and you need some help, then contact credit counseling because we do have a debt consolidation plan. So it's a voluntary agreement between you and your creditors that you're going to pay off all your unsecured debt. You're not going to use any new credit cards or loans over 5 years at a 0% interest rate. So this is an option when there's nothing the bank can do, but you're maybe not as far as bankruptcy or consumer proposal. You get an R7 credit rating and no access to new credit. Small monthly fee and a $50 setup fee, one-time $50 setup fee. And you must work with your counselor on a balanced budget so that you can afford the DCP. And it's an alternative to bankruptcy or consumer proposal, as I said. So final notes, you are not alone. All the statistics are showing that unfortunately Canadians were all very indebted in all different age brackets all across the country. So you're not alone and there are resources available. So credit counseling, our services are free. Just give us a call. And if we can't help you, we'll always point you in the right direction. So don't hesitate to reach out, or if you have a loved one or a friend that you're worried about, just give them our information. You might be helping them and saving them a lot of stress and financial stress. So any questions?
Thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Lauren. That was a really good presentation.
Thank you. I know it can be like a really private topic and a really private conversation. People aren't that comfortable talking about money and debt. But if anyone has a question that you wish you could ask, feel free. Meg has my information. Reach out to us. I'm happy to help.
It's great information, Lauren, and as you and I know that budgeting, yes, it's not what people want to talk about. It's something they sort of talk in the privacy of their own home, and oftentimes don't even talk to their family members about it. But it's extremely important to avoid any pitfalls down the road. But however, life do happen. And I just want to make sure that everybody do understand that there is help out there for everybody, regardless of your situation. Don't feel that you're isolated, because I can tell you from being in the insolvency business for over 3 decades that life happens, throws us curveballs. And that's why we're here to help. And I and our team actually refer a lot of clients to Credit Counselling Service of Newfoundland and Labrador. It's a fabulous organization. Thank you, Lauren. It was very detailed and interested, and hopefully it'll go on YouTube, and we'll have a lot of people have a listen.
Yes. Carla has a question.
Can you unmute, Carla?
Sure. I've got make sure the interpreter can hear me. Thank you for all the feedback. I have learned a lot, and I do appreciate the interpreters for that. It's very good for me. I appreciate that. Thank you. Have a nice day now.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
And in the chat, hang on now, Nigel says, thank you, Lauren. Can we have the presentation? Absolutely. We will. It'll be up on YouTube, and we have your email addresses. So Sherry, do we normally share?
Yes, you share your email address in outreach@seniorsnl.ca.
No, in terms of sharing the presentation.
Oh yes, we will share it on YouTube.
On YouTube, but do we email it out?
If they do request and it's okay with Lauren, yes, sure, we can.
Perfect. Lauren?
Yes, the only thing I suggest is email it as a PDF so that it can't be altered. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
By that? Okay. That's my only request is you can share it, just do it as a PDF so nobody changes it and makes me look silly.
That is a very, very fair request. Nigel, we just need you to share your email address, and anybody else who wants a copy of it, you can just throw it into chat if you share your email address in chat, and we can share that with you as a PDF. Okay. I don't know if there's anything else. So let me just go back to this PowerPoint to see if there's anything at the end. Nope, I think that we are good. And hang on now. I'm coming back to you now. I haven't driven Zoom in a long time. Anyways, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you so much, Lauren. That was meaty and something that's worth spending a little more time on.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Hey, everyone.
Bye.
Being with us. Bye. Thank you.